Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. It's time to talk some NFL football. The hot stove in Major League Baseball just got even hotter in the NFL. It's Thursday, February 18th, and it's time to talk some free agent football action and certainly some trades that went down today. I'm Donnie Seymour's Kyle Purviance, and this gentleman is the big man on campus, affectionately known. It's Jeff Nadeau. Welcome in, boys. Kyle, it's time to get going.
Man, I'm going to talk about timing, right? This is a beautifully timed show, and I know we got two passionate Eagles fans, so I'm stoked to hear the differing opinions, if you will, on the value that the Eagles got for the trade. Love having Jeff in here, and I'm excited to talk to the football peeps. Like, look, if you're like me, man, like I follow basketball and hockey so closely, the NBA is turning my hair gray, so I'm excited to forget about that damn league for a minute, talk some football. Glad to have Jeff in. It's going to be a lot of fun hearing about this Carson Wentz trade. I cannot wait to hear what you boys have to say about that.
Let's get after it right away. And again, he's no stranger. He's family around these parts of the area. Yeah. It's Jeff Nadeau, the big man on campus, talking a little NFL football on a Thursday. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. Love to have you today.
Great seeing you guys. It's been a long time. Good to see you. Thank you for having me. I've been gone. I saw some people wondering, where the hell's Big Man been? Well, I'm back. Thanks for having me. And you know what? I'm happy to be here. So let's talk football. Let's do it.
No, we're going to have some fun today. And by the way, I do have to mention this because, Jeff and I probably have done thousands of shows. Me and Kyle have known each other now for just about a year, having some good times on the NFL. But I got to say, I'm looking at this screen. I'm looking at Kyle in the middle. I see myself. I see Jeff. And I'm saying, something's different from the last time we did a show here on Sportsbook Review, Jeff.
Yeah. I commented on that right as we got on. I lost a ton of weight. I appreciate the kind words. And doing the videos was a big indicator of my life and where I had been, and I had to do something about it. And, going back and looking at those videos now, and if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. You get disgusted. You wonder, how did you ever get to that point? So it's nice to look at these videos and be proud of kind of what I've done, because there's one thing that you can't take from me. It's my own pride and my own ability to change who I am. So thank you, man. I appreciate it. Great to be here. Thanks for noticing.
Jeff, disgusted and upset is a beautiful segue into the Eagles in just a few moments here. But before we do that, big things here always on the channel. We always like to give a shout out to the good people in the chat box and also the many people that will watch after the show is live. There's 81,700 subscribers now on our channel. Thank you guys for hitting that subscription button. If you haven't done so yet, if it's still red right below where we're talking, flip that gray. Turn your notification bell on every single time we go live from the channel, bringing that information. You will get it delivered directly to your inbox, and you can come in and say hello. Let's not wait any longer here, because you see the taglines of the show. NFL free agents, big news dropping down today just a few hours ago. We were waiting here in Philadelphia for a good 2 to 3 weeks on where Carson Wentz was going to go. It wasn't a matter of when is he going to go. It just was going to be where he was going to go to. It seemed like Indianapolis was the best fit all along. I'm going to open up the floor right away to our guest here, Jeff Nadeau. Initial thoughts. You saw the trade come down. What were you thinking here, big man?
Well, we knew it was going to happen. It was really just a question of when and to who. It was either going to be the Chicago Bears or the Indianapolis Colts. And I had some thought, and I know I talked to you about, I kind of felt like Frank Reich would try to get his rabbit out of the hat and pull something off. We know he has connections to Carson. He was here during that Super Bowl year. And, that's what I highlight. You got a, kid in Carson Wentz who, has had some really terrific time in the NFL, and he's had some really bad time as well. I think the reason, an issue for me at this point with the Philadelphia Eagles is really past Carson Wentz. It's kind of, I see a lot of fans in a way celebrating that this was done. This is not a celebratory day. This is a real kind of just slap in the face at the end of the day that you gave up so much to go up and get Carson Wentz. He did give you that one, kind of first year, and then he got injured, and he was playing at an MVP level. He obviously had his own issues on the field, some transgressions, just bad decisions and holding on to the ball. But, Donnie, you know this best, being in the city and being close. The Philadelphia Eagles have had a problem in their history, at least in my lifetime, of never giving the quarterback, the star quarterback, weapons. And that was a problem for Carson Wentz most of his career. It's hard to throw the football when you have guys bearing down you. It's hard when you're throwing to Acme cashiers and the mechanic down the street. At the end of the day, they never helped Carson Wentz here. And you have a guy in control of this team that is a complete weasel and has no idea what he's doing. He's set this team up to fail, and now we have to eat $33 million because of his inability to be a GM the correct way. And now what's going to happen, Donnie and Kyle, is they're going to attack a quarterback in the draft, and they're once again going to fail yet another quarterback they already have here when they told us last year, we're going to make this team better, and they took Jalen Hurts. This is a mess. This team is a complete mess. I don't really know where to even go with it.
Kyle, I'm going to get some information from you on this before I drop a bomb on this whole Carson Wentz thing. Sure. So your initial thoughts and feelings, because we've traded it around all season long. Where's he going to go? What's the perfect find? Because I know looking at from a quarterback position, you are a 49ers fan saying that maybe, we thought Wentz would go to Indianapolis, but there's a lot of other spots where he said, you know what, if he gets plugged in there as healthy, he might be able to play well. San Francisco was one of those teams. But just get your take on Carson Wentz now going from Philadelphia to Indianapolis here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jeff said. If you're an Eagles fan, I'm a little pissed off. Look, you went on this crusade, not just this year where you lowered his value. I mean, you look at Jared Goff, the guy drafted right ahead of him. Look what the Rams got for Jared Goff. I mean, for Christ's sakes, it's 4 million times better than what the Eagles got, and the Eagles have no one to blame but themselves. And Jeff's right. They've done this historically outside of the 1 year that Donovan McNabb got Terrell Owens. I mean, when's the last time? What did they do that year? Yeah, exactly. They went to the Super Bowl, and they had a real chance to win. You remember Terrell Owens played on a broken ankle. He shouldn't even have been playing in that game, had 11 catches, something like that. I mean, he was fantastic in that game. But when's the last time the Eagles actually supported a quarterback? Was it Fred Barnett and Calvin Williams? Was Randall Cunningham back in the early or mid-'90s? I mean, that's the last time. And look, this is great for Carson Wentz. You're going to a city. First of all, there's a lot less pressure to play well in Indianapolis than there is in Philadelphia. But, I mean, my God, when you look at the haul that the Rams got for Jared Goff, and you look what you got today, sure, you got
wait a second. Jared Goff was a throw. You mean Stafford, right? Not Goff.
Well, yeah, but still, they used Jared Goff as a piece. Yeah, they get Matthew Stafford. I mean, you got Matthew Stafford. You got a legitimate NFL quarterback. The Eagles got absolutely nothing. Possible first-round pick most likely will be, barring injury or something. That most likely will convert to a first-round pick, but it's not a lot. I mean, when you look at some of these other, I'm just looking here saying and exactly to point out what Jeff said, you gave up all of this capital to trade up and get your guy, and then you just go on this crusade where you don't provide him wide receivers. You have the Super Bowl run. Nick Foles takes over. That puts more pressure on him right there. And then, I mean, Jalen Reagor and half of Deshaun Jackson. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey. Get the hell out of here. They didn't do anything for this young player. And I think we can all agree no quarterback in the league tries harder and puts his body on the line like Carson Wentz does. I think that he was mistreated in Philly. I don't think they got enough for him. I think if you're an Eagles fan, you have every right to be pissed off about this trade.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario going all the way around. Let's dive into what Carson Wentz was as a football player, because I love it. Because most people on the outside, let's just say not Eagle fans, Jeff and I, you'll see us on Twitter, we mouth off all the time on the Eagles. It's like, this is our family, we'll mouth off, but don't you mouth off from the outside, because there's a lot of teams, the same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of haters out there. So all you see is around is, Carson Wentz stinks, and you want to play it back. Kid came in to the NFL, right? 2016, he starts game one after Sam Bradford gets traded away. He doesn't have a preseason. Gets in like one play, cracks his ribs in the preseason. Next thing you know, is a starter. Said, all right, this kid might be something to work with. 2017, not that far ago, the single best player in the NFL, and it wasn't close. He would have won the MVP, they would have won the Super Bowl, and off his career would have went. But instead, he tears his knee, comes back early because he wants to get out front of Nick Foles and say, this is my team, this is my quarterback, comes back a little bit too fast, breaks his back, sits out the rest of the year. And people sort of forget, like, okay, well, Nick Foles with still the semblance of a really good football team, goes to the playoffs, wins a game, they end up losing to New Orleans. The very next year in 2019, I think it's completely glossed over. To me, one of the single best quarterback seasons of a Philadelphia Eagle quarterback in 50 years. You say, well, what was so special about it? The last game of the season to clinch a playoff berth, he had Boston Scott as his number one target with Greg Ward directly off of the practice squad. They win the division. So you say, okay, then he comes back. You ask him to do it again at 5 times worse the value with 5th and 6th string left and right tackles. And yes, Greg Ward as your top pass catcher once again, and you expected him to do miracles. And I jokingly said this on Twitter, but I'm dead serious about it. If Aaron Rodgers played for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020, he would have been on the bench by week 13 demanding a trade, saying, this is ridiculous. Good quarterbacks play well with good offensive linemen and good talent around them. He now goes from a dysfunctional organization that was the cataclysmic storm which caused this. Now he goes to an organization that's going to, you know what, give him a really good head football coach and a great play caller, an outstanding offensive line, young, talented weapons on the outside, a really good run game, a dynamite defense. And, oh, yeah, number one, I'm going to be playing in a dome with good weather. Number two, the Titans defense, the Jaguars defense, and the Texans defense. So don't get angry when Wentz throws 35 touchdowns next year. The Colts are in the playoffs. I don't want to hear any of these Eagles fans come back and say, oh, we were so stupid for trading him away. You people out there celebrating have no idea what you gave up, and now you have no idea what the future is going to entail. Jeff, just talk about it real quick on this.
And you know
I'll come right to you, Kyle.
To make it even more laughable out of all this, after the things that he's done for this team, the haul you went up to go get him, you give him a huge contract, and literally in a calendar year later, you draft a quarterback 52nd overall to hamp his progress and basically, let's be honest, cockblock the guy. Let's be real. Let's put a spade to spade. Carson Wentz is a small story and a large Philadelphia story, but Donnie, you know better than me, and the team across the street has the same problems. They never gave Allen Iverson any talent around him. He willed them to a to an NBA Finals. They got swept after winning Game 1, and that's all we heard the whole career. They never put anyone around him, and we watched other players go to other places. And I'm going to tell you right now, as God is my witness, Carson Wentz will shine in Indianapolis. It's a small market. It's not too far from where he's from growing up. It's the Midwest. He's got a guy that believes in him. He's got a city that will get behind him. He's got a terrific offensive line with some real skill position players. I'm happy for Carson Wentz. He's a great guy. He's a good dude. Did he annoy me at times? Yeah, but when you really look back at his career and his legacy in this town, he was never good enough to a lot of these people, and people didn't realize. You made such a good point about throwing to just nobodies, guys that didn't even belong in the league, that they knew didn't belong in the league. It's really pathetic, and no one is more to blame than that guy in the front office who has ruined this team for the most part, ruined it.
You know, Kyle, when you look at the situation overall, because I'm a big hypothetical guy, like just transpose the situation, because the thought process is this. They drafted Jalen Hurts, and Carson Wentz was so weak in his mind he couldn't even deal with it. Flip those scenarios around, right? Let's just say, forget Jalen Hurts, but, Love in Green Bay. And switch the teams around. Aaron Rodgers plays with the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line and skill position weapons. They have the guy on the bench. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to say, well, he couldn't play well because he's too weak minded. No, if you just took that same team and put Wentz behind Green Bay's offense this year with Jalen Hurts, Hurts never sees the field. It's just a fact. Well, he didn't play all the well. I understand he didn't play well. But you know when you don't play well? The minute you take a snap, you are getting destroyed by the pass rush. When you have guys that can't – Whiteside on the outside who can't get open. Jalen Reagor, who's hurt and injured. Alshon Jeffrey, who's chirping to the media, who shows up in like week 10. Deshaun Watson, who plays one game. Richard Rodgers was this guy's weapon on the outside. Unbelievable stuff, man. Sometimes I get so passionate about
Travis Fulgham.
Travis
bleeping Fulgham. I mean, these guys wouldn't make another team. I mean, they wouldn't even be on their active roster. I mean, that's the simple truth of it. And that's really the sad part, is that how poorly he was treated by Doug Peterson, by that organization. They set him up to fail. And I mean, it's been a long time since I was like, man, that guy is running for his life. He's risking his body on every play. It was maximum effort all the time. So now the Indianapolis Colts are going to get a young quarterback with something to prove. By the way, they have one of the best pass protecting offensive lines in the league, if not the best pass protecting offensive line in the entire National Football League. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor. That running game is going to be legit. They drafted Michael Pittman, kind of tailed off towards the end, and we'll have to see what happens with T.Y. Hilton free agency, what they have there. But I'm really happy for Carson Wentz. But the Eagles did this to themselves. Why in the hell, when you just invested, and I think Jeff brings up a great point, you give him this massive contract, and you're like, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to draft a quarterback in the second round. What in the actual are you thinking? I mean, seriously, what the hell are you thinking? It kind of goes to the Green Bay Packers. What the hell are you guys doing?
Carson Wentz is going to win a Super Bowl in Indianapolis in 3 years. Watch.
Well, Carson Wentz will win a Super Bowl before the Philadelphia Eagles will. That's for goddamn sure. And I just don't understand the logic. Like, once you knew, I guess your organization knew, halfway through the year when they decided it's time to bench Carson Wentz and they're going to go to Jalen Hurts. I mean, you pretty much ended that right there. That was done. I mean, you just simply can't do that. And then they just went on I know they fired Doug Peterson. That's cool, but man, they just went on a crusade to devalue this guy. So they didn't just hurt Carson Wentz while he was there. They hurt themselves by lowering his trade value. Now you see what you get. I'm sorry. You just look around what starting quarterbacks in this league are going for at his age. They don't come around very often. It's kind of rare. We have it with Deshaun Watson this year as well. But really, you got to look back to like a Jay Cutler, the last time a young quarterback sort of in his prime that was, a sort of cherished starter, if you will, was available. And they got, just look at the overwhelming assets they got for it. I don't think the Eagles got this year. They hurt their team. I think they hurt their reputation. If you're a young quarterback or a free agent quarterback, do you want to go play for the Eagles? I sure as hell don't.
The interesting part about it, too, before we wrap up on Carson Wentz and get to some of the free agents out here in the market, particularly quarterbacks, Jeff, the interesting thing to me is how quick, because Kyle brings up a point and so do you, the money that's laid out there, that shows in 2019, you're a franchise guy, we're not going anywhere, we're going to pay a lot of money, we're going to spread it out over 5 to 6 years, you're going to be here, we'll build around you, be a champion. And in 1 year, it sort of goes away. The only thing I could think of, because if I'm an owner, I say, whoa, my front office, you asked me to stroke a check for $140 million. Now you're telling me we're going to pay the guy like $70 million to go away. This isn't happening. We are going to make this work. So this has to believe me, because we get mad at Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, but this isn't a GM acting on his own that the owner just lets him do whatever he does. It almost feels to me like the owner is saying, Howie, I got you. Let me pull some of these strings. If it fails, you take the fall for me. You'll still be here, but this is my decision. It just can't get out, because there's no way a GM can go to an owner and say, look, we're in a pandemic. Can you eat $70 million? We're going to get worse. And I don't know what's going to happen. You know what he usually tells the general manager? You're fired. The coach is fired. Carson Wentz is going to be the quarterback. We paid him that money. Good luck in 3 years when maybe the contract's up. We'll move on, Jeff. Any thought to that process of who the hell is actually really in charge here?
Yeah, and, I think, the Eagles are lucky at this point. It's 2021, and this fan base, it's not 15, 20 years ago, because you know better than me, Donnie, this fan base would be down in that parking lot trying to break down the door. The fan of the Philadelphia Eagles is a lot different now than it used to be, in my opinion. In this town, the fan is a little less confrontational, let's say. We don't have that same, I think, reputation. Still there a little bit, but yeah, this is – you got to wonder what compromising stuff Howie has on Jeffrey at this point. It's really odd. You got to wonder if this were any other team. And again, we keep going back to the same thing, from owner or from GM to the player. The continued allowance of mediocrity in this town is really odd. I don't understand this continued, we have to be loyal to these people. It's a business, but yet you can't be loyal to the guy that you probably should be loyal to, and that's Wentz. It's just weird. I will say this, though, and this is another team I try to process. The Chicago Bears and I think the Eagles are always – to me, have always been very similar. I know the Eagles have actually won a little bit more over the last 20 years, but they're similar teams in the fact that the Chicago Bears are another team that just seem to not ever be right about anything. Why didn't they go after Carson Wentz? I'm sure they may have tried, and I know Donnie has his own thought about their ownership group, and they're just obviously, I think, either I don't know what's going on, but what do they see that they don't need a quarterback? I don't understand their thought process either.
No, the Chicago Bears are way. Kyle knows me. Like, I'll talk about Grandma Bear all day long and how that's ridiculous that she runs the team, and we're not going to get little Mitchie here because he's a really good quarterback and I like him. He looks like my grandkid. I mean, we go through that stuff all the time here and talk about Chicago Bears. That's a story for another day. Why don't we start to transition into talking about some quarterbacks here in the free agent offseason? Because, Carson Wentz just lit a fire under us, spent 20 minutes going over it. Jeff and I, and certainly Kyle, could have talked about another 2 hours on the intricacies of the Philadelphia Eagles and what the hell went wrong with Carson Wentz. But the more interesting story out here right now, because when we talk free agents, this guy sort of slips right on by the notion, because you know who is the number 1 overall free agent as of today, February 18th? That's Dak Prescott, sitting at an average value of his contract the last year, which again was a franchise tag, at $31 million. He's sitting back on I want the world. And if you don't give it to me, you know what I'm getting? At least $38 million straight up this year to be your quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. They have nowhere else to turn to. So when we look at some of the quarterbacks out here, by far and away, Dak Prescott is number one. One of the guys that I'm interested to see on these lists, because it's a quite large list, a lot of backups, a lot of guys looking to sort of hang around and be second and third stringers in here, as we see Cam Newton out there on the unrestricted free agent market. Good luck with Cam Newton. But by far, Dak Prescott is going to be tagged by the Dallas Cowboys and be their quarterback. So it's sort of cheating to have him as a free agent, but he is listed as. The one interesting one here, which I want to start off with, is Jacoby Brissett is a free agent. Now, if the Indianapolis Colts are watching from afar and go, Nick Foles was a little bit of a problem there because he's starter caliber, and then we take a look at Jalen Hurts, who came in, we drafted him eventually to be a starter. Do we want to bring Jacoby Brissett back at a decent number, who we're going to say all the right things like, hey, he's going to compete for the starting job? Kyle, I'll start with you first. Quarterbacks and free agents, what fits out here, what we're looking at?
Yeah, and you're right. Outside of Dak Prescott and probably soon to be Ben Roethlisberger, I think you'll see him on this list sooner than later at the number that he's at. I mean, there's no way in hell.
41 million.
Yeah, 41 million, the highest paid player in the league. We'll get to the bold predictions, but don't be surprised when you see him released, and then he's Frank Thomas's co-star on the Nugenix commercials, which is going to bring a whole new meaning to the end of that commercial when you have Ben Roethlisberger going, "Hey ladies, hey guys, the ladies will like it too." Ooh, Twitter is not going to like that.
She'll like the difference too.
Yeah, she'll like the difference too. Has a whole different meaning. It's already creepy with Frank Thomas. It'll be way creepier and disturbing when it's Ben Roethlisberger. But I digress. Look, Cam Newton cannot be a quarterback in this league. I think that was crystal clear. Look, the New England Patriots were a terrible offense, terrible defense. They still somehow went 7-9. I think that's a testament to Bill Belichick. But Cam Newton was an absolute disaster. I mean, the dude couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, to use a cliche. The worst throwing quarterback I think that I've seen. And I mean, I think Ben DiNucci was more competent. Ben DiNucci, more competent. Ben DiNucci, a better pure passer than Cam Newton, no doubt in my mind. The one that sticks out to me, I'm really interested to see where Ryan Fitzpatrick goes. I think if you're a team like Detroit, or not Detroit, they had Jared Goff, but you're a team like New England or one of these teams, maybe Pittsburgh, are they really going to roll out Dwayne Haskins? Or the Bears, sure. Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you have a decent roster, this is a smart guy. We know he went to Harvard. Dude can throw the ball over the place. Are you going to have those 5-interception meltdown games? Of course you are. That's some of the beauty. That's why I love Ryan Fitzpatrick so much. He's probably one of the most fun players to watch who's not athletic at all in the entire National Football League. I love watching him. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. For my money, outside of Dak Prescott, which Jerry Jones will be an absolute moron if he doesn't give this guy what he wants and do what he wants. I mean, look at the rest of it. I mean, once you get past that, you talk Jacoby Brissett, decent. I mean, do you really want Tyrod Taylor, who certainly wants to leave the Chargers, right? No more. He doesn't want to have his lungs punctured anymore by an incompetent medical staff. Why the hell would he want to be there? I mean, Joe Flacco, why the hell is he even listed? He needs to be retired and gone a long time. Mike Glennon, Brett Hundley. I mean, the list is real bad once you get from the top. Ryan Fitzpatrick, do not be surprised when, after all the, the draft and all these trades and Deshaun Watson figures out what's happening there, Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be a sought-after guy. That's the one that intrigues me the most. Jameis Winston, yeah, I mean, if he's figured out his turnover issues, I suppose. But right now, the interesting story to me outside of Dak Prescott will be where Ryan Fitzpatrick goes.
You know what's interesting, too, and I'm going to bring Jeff into the conversation in a second here. The whole Mitchell Trubisky thing going to the Chicago Bears, it's a mistake. And you're leaving at the wrong time because the actual, players moving forward. If you look at the Houston situation, Bill O'Brien was in charge. He didn't care about the Houston fans. He didn't care about the Houston front office. You know what he said? The time is now. It's like the fantasy football guy in the keeper league that trades away like his future 3 picks, knowing he ain't coming back next year. Bill O'Brien was self-preserving himself and ruined that entire franchise. If the Chicago Bears were smart, they don't actually sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. They don't try to make a run again at a 7th seed in the NFC. They implode, fire the front office, fire their head football coach, and then tank to get a high draft pick for a quarterback is smart to do. Second point I'm going to bring up with Dak Prescott. The notion around Twitter, ESPN, and everybody tries to get off on is Dak Prescott is being disrespected in Dallas. Dak Prescott made $31 million on the field last year. He's going to make at least $38 million on the field this year. And the question I keep bringing up is they say, well, why is Dak so nice? And you take a look at, Deshaun Watson. Why does he want to get out of town? Dak Prescott is with the #1 franchise in the entire world, dollars-wise. Do you know how much Dak Prescott made pre-pandemic off the field? When we used to say, oh, well, he was only making $2 million on his rookie salary. He makes $50 million a year in endorsements off the field. That's why Dak sits back and goes, hey, man, it's all bread and butter. I'm going to make $100 million next year, no matter what happens. That's what he's into on this. Jeff, quarterbacks, free agent market, some intricacies here from you. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dak Prescott's #1. I mean, there's no one even close on this list to Dak Prescott. And Kyle mentioned Fitzpatrick. He's just a durable guy, always going to give you something no matter where he goes. Doesn't seem to ever really get upset either. He can I think he's just almost okay with his kind of backup role in a way. But Jameis Winston is a guy that if I need a quarterback, I am coveting, and I'm trying to grab him out from New Orleans before New Orleans makes a move, because I think that the common thought is Drew Brees is going to retire. He took a salary reduction recently. It was kind of evident. Jay Glazer even reported that he was going to retire at the end of the year. I love Jameis Winston. I've talked to you, Donnie, many times. I think he is severely underrated. I know he had that one season where he threw a ton of interceptions, but outside of that, the kid never threw more than 18 in a season. It was a one-off year. Has he had turnover problems? Yes. But he's still a guy that has massive production. He's a terrific player in the right system. I'll be honest, I would love for the Eagles to sign Jameis Winston. Pittsburgh, I lauded on them. They should sign him because Ben Roethlisberger is done. I don't know what certain teams are waiting on. I don't know why Jameis Winston doesn't attract the same kind of attraction as others. Why did Cam Newton get so much respect? Where was the respect for Winston? This guy's a player and he's a starter in this league. I don't know why people act like he isn't. And somebody better grab him before New Orleans signs him, because I get a feeling next year he's going to be throwing touchdown passes in that offense if Drew Brees moves on, and I think he's going to.
No, and Jeff, you bring up a great point, because we usually bag on guys for going out and getting the bag. But money matters more. I don't care what my fit is. How about Jameis Winston taking his pride and saying, you know what? Didn't work out. Tampa Bay actually, this is a talented team. They don't even want me. And even worse, they go out and get a quarterback, then they win the Super Bowl. But he goes to New Orleans and says, Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer. I can sit on the chalkboard with this guy, pick his brain for a whole year. I have no pressure on me whatsoever. Now you get the retirement of Drew Brees. There's no way in hell New Orleans goes to Taysom Hill as their full-time starter. He's got to stay in that little jet package. Jameis Winston might get the biggest bag of all, because we forget how young he still is in his NFL career. He's going to have a really good year. He's going to stay with New Orleans. They'll pay him some money to be a starter. He goes out next year, 33 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He's making himself $150 million in his next go-round. I think he might have been the biggest winner overall of the quarterbacks, of where they said, you know what? I made some money already. I'm taking $1 million contract to sit on the bench, and that might pay off ace of spades, as opposed to Cam Newton, who was injured already and goes, let me just go in somewhere and be the starter right away on a bad offensive football team. And now we're saying Jameis Winston has a big future. Cam Newton has absolutely no future whatsoever.
This is the picture, guys, of maturation right in front of us. You look at Cam Newton, who, again, is older. He's matured a bit, but still the same kind of, I'm just going to get what I want and do what I want. Jameis Winston has had issues off the field. We all know that. He's now 27 years old, though, and he said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to be a rock-bottom guy, and I'm cheap. I can start on your team, and I have a lot of, possibilities. I mean, is there any player more interesting than him? I mean, this guy's a proven player in this league.
Ready-made offense.
He's obviously matured. The NFL has moved towards his type of offense. I'm really impressed with his maturation over the last, let's say, 3 seasons. And I know he's done things that, when he was at Florida State and stuff was kind of swept under the rug. But there is no quarterback on this list outside of Dak Prescott I would want more than him. And again, it's not a deep list, but he has a lot of potential and still, as you said, young. And he only made $1.1 million, basically $1,100,000 last year. He's a bargain. I don't know why teams don't want this guy.
In terms of long term, like if you're looking for a long term solution, I think you're right. We talk about it. Everyone talks about it. Oh, he threw 30 interceptions in a year. He also threw for over 5,000 yards and led the league in touchdown passes with 33 touchdowns. So the decision making, and you remember that Tampa Bay team, their defense, which matured a lot more this year. Their defense stunk. They couldn't stop anybody. They had no running game to speak of. They weren't going to Ronald Jones. So he was forced to throw. That team was a lot of fun to watch. I remember just smashing the over every single week. It was a lot of fun to bet on. He does have talent, a ton of talent. Probably on this list, the best pure passer on this list. I mean, the dude has a rifle.
He screams from the high heavens, Michael Vick. I know he didn't do the same things Michael Vick did over like a year of 2 years. Michael Vick went to federal prison, for God's sakes. But Jameis Winston, Donnie, doesn't this scream he comes to Philadelphia and he resurrects his career and goes out and wins? I would love
but I don't think he can, though. Like, if I'm Jameis Winston, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I would go to the Steelers. I would stay in New Orleans. Philadelphia Eagles, no, I'm not going to rebuild.
Well,
it's again. Yeah,
it's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen, but I mean, I think he has a real resurrection coming. I think he's super uber talented.
No, and I agree. But then again, when we look at who's actually available at the quarterbacks, because you have to place one with another. Some people on Twitter say, oh, my God, can't even believe the Colts gave up that much for Carson Wentz. Take a look at who's actually available that you can go get, and then realize what people actually pay for in this league when you're saying, like, hey, you know who's a good fit? 39-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick. Good luck with that when you try to enter in as a GM to try to save your job. But let's move on to some running backs here. A lot of interesting ones. And, Kyle, I'm going to start with you first, because as I slide this list down and go over, there's a lot of names on this list. And most people don't want to pay up for running backs. You don't want to pay them like a contract like Zeke has in Dallas, or, a Todd Gurley type contract. We see where that ends up getting you down the road, because you want to use them up in their first couple of years. Then they'll make a little bit of coin down the road, but that's where you get it. There's one guy that Jeff, you probably, I don't know if you've watched the show a lot this year, but there's one guy in Green Bay with the way he plays and his head coach. We couldn't understand it all year long. You had this Ferrari, or what we thought was a Ferrari, in Aaron Jones, never getting on the field, splitting time like 6 different ways. But then we see the playoffs and go, Matt LaFleur actually must have known something about this guy, how soft he was, because he gets to the playoffs, has a terrible game, and then his agent, we're going to get paid in the offseason. Kyle, I want to start right with Aaron Jones. Getting paid in the offseason, you couldn't have had a worse ending.
I don't know if there's a running back ever outside of Adam Walker and Derek Lavelle, who replaced Ricky Waters when he went to your Eagles, that I've ever hated more. I absolutely hate this guy. My nickname for him is Aaron Baby Back Bitch Jones, because that's what he is a baby back bitch. I cannot stand this guy. And I was with you. I was like, just give the damn ball to Aaron Jones, Matt LaFleur. You're such an idiot, Matt LaFleur, which he is, by the way. He's not a great head coach.
Yeah, he definitely is.
We'll disagree on that. I think Matt LaFleur is an absolute dumbass as a head coach. But Aaron Jones, there are some fits for this guy. When I look at a team like Buffalo, and I think Buffalo is one of those teams that through free agency is one of those teams that everyone could say they're 1 or 2 pieces away. What did they really struggle with last year? A consistent running game, and they also need those running backs who can catch passes out of the backfield and be explosive. That's Aaron Jones, and he doesn't have to play every down because you still have Devin Singletary. You just drafted Zach Moss. I think Buffalo would be a decent fit for him. But trying to go out and act like you deserve, Zeke Elliott or Christian McCaffrey money is absolutely hilarious to me. You choked in the playoffs. You landed on the football, got the wind knocked out of you, weren't playing well, and that's what happened. And he gave himself a cop-out and went and sat on the sidelines. It reminds me, I have an old figurine of LaDainian Tomlinson, whom I loved, by the way, and was fantastic. But it's the pouty face figurine where he's sitting on the sidelines. Phillip Rivers is out there playing on a torn ACL, and he's sitting there pouting because he can't play. It's Jay Cutler on the treadmill. That's Aaron Jones. He embarrassed himself in the postseason. I don't think he's as valuable as he thinks he is. But I do think a team like Buffalo or even Arizona, if they move on from Kenyon Drake, would be an interesting spot for him. Teams that have mobile quarterbacks, teams where you don't have to carry the entire burden of the offense, but you can make some explosive plays on the edge and out of the backfield catching the ball. That's where he fits in for me. But I would be pissed if the 49ers signed him. Let's just put it that way.
Jeff, some younger names also on the list. I know you get to some of yours, but you take a look at like Marlon Mack coming off an injury here. Also taking a look at Gus Edwards, who I have a very high opinion of in that running attack for the Baltimore Ravens. But then you have the older veterans at it, like the Le'Veon Bells. But one of the more intriguing ones to me is because a lot of people that are watching, just fans of the sport, you say, boy, man, Leonard Fournette made himself a lot of money. See, I thought he had a very below average regular season, almost got benched, showed up in the Packers game against a softer defense, and then showed up again in the Super Bowl against Kansas Kansas City, not the greatest defense in the world. He's now a free agent. Is he going to take that route? We'll start with him first for you, of going back to Tampa Bay on one of those, hey, thanks for the Super Bowl, 2 years, $6.5 million. Or does he actually think he can cash in somewhere around the league?
Yeah, I didn't. I thought he was okay, particularly late in the season. But yeah, he never really matriculated, I think, into what a lot of people thought he would be. What was he, the third or fourth pick? I think
third.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah. It was obviously very sought after. He definitely didn't become like what a Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think is going to become out of LSU. But he's had some injuries. I think that's kind of been an issue. But I still think you talk about another guy. He's only 26 years old, so this is a guy that still has.
He seems so old, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does seem old.
Man.
Seems like he's been around for a while. But again, this is what you want. You want to kind of build off a renaissance late in the season. You had a lot of, obviously, love in the Super Bowl and, all the festivities after the fact. I think he'll do quite well. You kind of want that lightning rod, and I think he could be that. You mentioned like a Buffalo or somebody like that. That would be interesting. A guy that I have my eye on that doesn't really get any love because of where he is and who he plays alongside of, but quietly had a very good season. Still only 28 years old. Mike Davis from Carolina.
Yeah, he did. Good for
him. I thought he had a solid season. Obviously he's kind of second fiddle to Christian McCaffrey now that CMC's healthy, but he's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He had really, and I know Kyle probably knows this, really good analytic numbers as far as breaking tackles, that sort of thing. I really like what Mike Davis does. Only had one fumble last season in 15 games, which is pretty good. In fact, very good. And he's still somewhat cheap. He only made $3 million last year, not too bad. I have a feeling he can go somewhere and really help somebody. Again, another guy I would love to see in Philadelphia. We've dealt with this Boston Scott and Corey Clement triumvirate the last couple of years. And the Eagles have done a nice job with trying to find these, LeGarrette Blount type of guys that have come in and did some good things. Jordan Howard at times. So he's a guy that I have my eye on. And one other one, really a cheap guy. I like what Wayne Gallman did up at New York with the Giants. I mean, he had a solid season.
He good fantasy year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He only made $705,000 last year. He's still pretty, he's still only 27. He's a guy that I think could be a real difference maker. This is definitely a list with value. There's a lot of good players. James Conner, he kind of fell out of that role with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Does he stink? I don't know if he stinks.
The turtle. We call him the turtle.
He comes across to me, though, as, he had the cancer stuff, which obviously derailed his career a little bit. And I don't know if he stinks, but, there's just a lot of names here that I think there's some interest in a lot of these guys, and they're pretty cheap.
Yeah, somebody fall down the list, too. Real quick before we move over to wide receivers, because, we have more fun talking to quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs than what we will in just a few moments. But give me like a winner. Like, you don't have to be a top-rated back. Give me I'm going to start with my winner. Like, if I was an NFL GM, I could get a guy at a decent price. I see Philip Lindsay all the way down the list as a restricted free agent. Maybe throw a 6th or 7th round pick the guy up, will be relatively cheap. When he's healthy, he's a really talented running back. I'll start with you first here, Kyle. Make maybe a winner on this list. You say, I'm an NFL GM. Let me uncover this stone here that can really help my team out.
I think Mark Ingram. I think he still has
tread on the tires?
Some tread on the tires. Yeah. Absolutely. He was very underused last year with Baltimore. They did this whole ceremonious release and all this shit and, blah, blah, blah. But I think Mark Ingram, and look, we're just a couple years away where he's a 1,000-yard rusher splitting time with Alvin Kamara, which is kind of weird. Isn't it weird that Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara are the exact same height and weight? They really are. And you would look at the two and not believe that, but I know I digressed there. But I think Mark Ingram, a veteran guy, good goal line guy. I think you could still give him 150 to 175 carries a year. He can average 3.5 to 4 yards a carry. He's not going to turn the football over. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think Mark Ingram's a very interesting one as I look down that list.
Who you got, Jeff? Quick little winner here on one of these nuggets at running back.
Yeah, still, the guy just isn't getting love from anybody. Seems like even you guys are down. What is the issue with Mike Davis? 581 snaps last year. He's up in the territory of like Kenyon Drake and guys that can have a workload. And I know he became kind of the de facto back because of CMC, but he had good receiving numbers, good rushing numbers, good power, still pretty young. Can he be that number one guy? I don't know, but I think he can really help a good football team and kind of maybe put him over the top. There's a lot of guys on this list. I don't know if there's a lot of, like you say, winners, But I look at Mike Davis and I say, what is there not to like about him?
Yeah, I like Mike Davis.
Yeah.
I loved Mike Davis. He was one of my favorite free agent pickups last year in fantasy football. I absolutely love that guy. And he's been disrespected by not just the Bears, the Seahawks, several teams. He's sort of been this like stopgap guy.
But he's a workhorse, and I like that.
He's a workhorse, physical, doesn't turn it over, and like you said, can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think that's a good one. I think Mike Davis is good. I agree with that.
Moving over to wide receiver here, taking a look at some of the options we have. I mean, there's some big names out here, but some guys that have produced in the past, probably not going to produce in the future, starting with like A.J. Green coming off of an $18.1 million year. He was like the 7th option on a really bad Cincinnati Bengals team. But there's other ones, even from a Philadelphia perspective, guys like a T.Y. Hilton might shake loose from Indianapolis, play, under already Nick Sirianni, who comes over from Indianapolis over to Philadelphia. God knows we need wide receivers. And if the Eagles are looking to go quarterback again in the top half of the draft, you still need weapons to surround your young quarterback, and maybe a veteran might be able to help out. But as I slide it all the way down, a guy that made about $750,000 last year, we know he's going to get a huge pay jump, and this is a big component to a Super Bowl championship team with Chris Godwin. Look, guys say the right things. Like, man, I love it here. We won the Super Bowl. But when another team knocks on your door and goes, they're going to give you 60, I'll give you $80 million. You say, you know what? Jacksonville's my favorite place to be. I can't wait to get over there. Sorry, Tampa Bay. We always see that change. Kyle, I'm going to start with you first again. Some free agents here that we like on the wide receiver market here.
Okay, well, let's talk about how dumb the Chicago Bears are again. You haven't even had a contract talk with Allen Robinson.
I love Allen Robinson, too.
No, Allen Robinson is an absolute beast. And we're talking top 4 in targets, receptions per target, reception percentage. I can go through a million analytics, and Allen Robinson stands out at the top. And again, don't forget who's throwing him the football. I mean, Mitch Trubisky, and Nick Foles' shell of himself, which is bad enough because Nick Foles sucks anyway. So it's absolutely bizarre that Chicago has not. I know you guys love Nick Foles, and I'm sorry he had the one great year, but no, Nick Foles sucks. Okay, bottom line. But the fact that they haven't even talked to Allen Robinson about a contracting extension, Allen Robinson's got to be at the top of a lot of lists. Another guy that was beset by injuries last year, really frustrating. Kenny Golladay for Detroit. This kid is an absolute beast. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit decides to go ahead and franchise tag him to keep him around, because not only is Kenny Golladay a free agent, but Marvin Jones Jr. is a free agent. Danny Amendola is a free agent. So you really have nothing there. They inexplicably just got rid of Marvin Hall, who seemed like a nice young wide receiver piece. They're just like, screw it. We want to give more snaps to Mohamed Sanu, because everybody knows you got to get Mohamed Sanu involved in your offense. You just have no chance of succeeding. Kenny Golladay is really, really interesting to me, and just kind of a sleeper guy who can kind of do everything. He can do some of those Tyreek Hill type things. Of course, not as explosive as Tyreek Hill. Is Curtis Samuel for Carolina. Yeah. You can line him up in the backfield. He can run the ball. He can do all sorts of different things. A gadget-type player, can catch the ball in the slot, was really, really good in the slot for Carolina this year. Curtis Samuel is interesting. Of course, you got the Will Fullers out there who finally had a healthy year, and you're like, oh, yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. You're on HGH. Just let him take it, for Christ's sakes. We're trying to get a full season out of Will Fuller. I drafted him in the 8th round in fantasy football. But no, really, I'm watching Kenny Golladay a lot. I think that's really, really interesting, and just kind of a sneaky one, it would be Curtis Samuel.
You know what's interesting, too, Jeff? I'll get to you on wide receivers here. We take a look at some of the bigger names on the list. Like Juju Smith-Schuster is up, still a young player, and he gets a lot of flack. The TikTok videos and dancing and like, oh, he's not as good as he used to be. Still had, 97 catches, 831 yards, and 9 touchdowns this year, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent hitting the market. So there are some names that can help out some teams out here, but you brought up an interesting one there. Kyle Fuller is a quarterback's best friend, man. Stretch the field, get deep, be a burner, and even if you're a wide receiver on the opposite side, like, dude, this guy's going to take the top off. I can run my intermediate routes all day long over the middle. Jeff, some wide receivers you got your eye on here as free agents.
Yeah, you mentioned Godwin, very productive. I mean, 24 years old. We know, you and I and Kyle know better than anyone that he's the number 1 on any team. And look, it seems as if Tampa Bay is a little bit enamored still with Mike Evans, and they want to kind of keep him around. They've got other people, Rob Gronkowski, all these different people, Leonard Fournette. A lot of people are going to want that chicken now that you won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I think he takes precedent, but doesn't seem like they're putting him above everyone else. I think Chris Godwin is a kid. I mean, he's probably, to me, the number 1 guy outside of, you mentioned Allen Robinson. I think Kenny Golladay needs to be franchise tagged if I'm the Detroit Lions. Yeah. I think that's just the way to go there. He's just injury prone. But a guy that I have my eye on, no one will bring him up. And Donnie, I like to look real deep.
Yes.
Find those uncut gems, as they say. I know you hated that movie, which is one of the
bad movie.
One of the
great
worst.
saying, but bad
really
movie,
bad.
Jeff.
One of the worst opinions in the history of movies is that opinion. Truly, just disturbing. Demir Bird. Okay, this is a guy.
Local kid.
Yeah, he basically had Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite throwing to him. I mean, hey, let me throw it over them mountains. It's winging it around. It's he had a pretty productive year, 13 yards of reception, pretty cheap. I think he had 901 snaps. I mean, he's in a ton of games. He's a guy that's interesting. Didn't get a lot of love because he's in New England. They were so anemic offensively, but really had a career year last year. And you got to imagine they're going to try to re-sign him. They don't have much up there, but there's a lot of really interesting. You see a lot of these older guys, Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, Tavon Austin. What about Nelly Aguilar here?
Good season, rebirth out there.
He's going to stay with the Raiders. There's no way they let him go.
Well, he's not with the Eagles anymore. Of course he's having a good year. They hated him in this town, including me, but he's going to get paid. He had a good year. What do you have, 8 touchdowns? Not bad.
He did. Yeah.
Great year. I'll be shocked if the Raiders let him go. That would be surprising to me. He's their legit number 1 receiver.
No, I definitely think Kenny Golladay, he's got to be back. You got to, if you're gonna have Jared Goff, you can't wentz him, as I like to call it now, and say, look, we're just gonna blow it up, have fun, Jared. We'll laugh at you for a year or two, and then we'll cut you and get away. Somebody has to actually be on that team.
You might be able to get a bargain with him too. I mean, as I said, Golladay injury prone. I mean, I'd love to know. I mean, I don't even know how many full seasons he's ever played. He's always injured, it seems like.
Yeah, well, the year before, he was the number 1 touchdown receiving wide receiver in the league, including the red zone. Right behind red zone targets, DK Metcalf. So he's got the talent, but you're right, the hip injury all year. And it was like, oh, he's going to be back this week. Oh, he's going to be back this week. And he just never and that's what makes Chris Godwin.
Has an axe to grind with him, big man.
Oh, I would love to punch Kenny Golladay in the face. I would love to punch him right in the face. I really would. Him, Darren Bevel, all of them. Just anyone associated with the Lions, I want to punch right in the face. But and that just shows the value of Chris Godwin. This dude is tougher than nails. Dude had finger surgery, pins put in his finger. He's playing through it. Sprained knee, he's playing through it. He puts himself out there. Even Bruce Arians had to acknowledge, look, this is the toughest person on our entire football team. Plays through everything. Chris Godwin's got to be the gem outside of Allen Robinson. And then, the Kenny Galladays fall after that, I think.
Got a couple segments here to go. At the end, we're going to go over some bold trades, maybe some bold free agent moves that we think are going to happen. But let's flip it over to the defensive side as a whole here. One of the biggest ones, which is a club option, which doesn't look like it's going to turn into an actual club option. That's Von Miller, probably going to be hitting the market after basically sitting out the entire season, not due to COVID, but breaking his foot. Now going to enter in as one of those emerging pass rushers that hits the market, which we don't see all that much. Matthew Judon, J.J. Watt's out here. K'Wan Short just got cut from Carolina, one of those guys that's made a couple Pro Bowls, a slew of defensive edge rushers as well as defensive backs so you can go over. Teams really put a premium on rushing the quarterback and defending the pass, being a cornerback in this league. If we take a look, and I guess the big one, we like J.J. Watt, where's he going to go? And, he plays it up. Oh, I love free agency. And, the Minnesota Wild, they're sending like Photoshop tweets of him in like a Minnesota Wild. I mean, he eats this stuff up. Don't get it twisted where when J.J. Watt went into that boardroom and said, I really think we should part ways, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be crying. It was like, oh, my God, the next 3 weeks I can send out cryptic tweets where everybody's going to hang on every one of my words. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. If he's smart, he's made a ton of money. Go to a ready-made Super Bowl champion and say, I'll rush the passer on 3rd downs. I'll stay healthy. I'll give you what you need to put that ring. Exactly. Something in that type of mold. We say, I'm going to go to a team that I think can win it and I can really help because if we're up in the 3rd and 4th quarter, I'm going to get my chances to rush the passer. I'm going to start with you first here, Kyle. Some defensive stalwarts that you would be looking at here because there's some big names. Shaq Barrett, Bud Dupree. Big-time pass rushers are out here, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pass rushers and defensive backs, right? You want shutdown man corners and you want pass rushers, and you're right. That list for edge rushers, I mean, Shaq Barrett. First of all, the one I'm most annoyed with who just needs to get out of here is Jadeveon Clowney. I have had enough of the nonsense with Jadeveon Clowney. Oh, I'm not going to go to training camp. I'm not going to play in preseason.
Show up 2 days before.
Yeah, I'm going to show up 2 days before, then I'm going to play 4 snaps during the season and not do a damn thing with them. Shut the hell up, Jadeveon Clowney. You're way down the list. Bud Dupree is going to be interesting. Listen, Pittsburgh is in cap purgatory. Bud Dupree is an absolute monster on the outside. He and TJ Watt, I think that's someone to keep an eye on. Yannick Ngakoue, of course. Leonard Floyd, we saw how disruptive he could be in the playoffs. in that Rams defense. I think he's really, really interesting. And the Rams, another team way over the cap. They're going to have to move some things around to get everything sorted out there. So Leonard Floyd could certainly be available. And when I look at defensive backs, just one corner that really stands out to me. No one really talks about this guy. He's sort of under the radar because he plays with the Bengals. But William Jackson is an outstanding cover corner in the NFL, one of the best man cover corners in the world. In fact, allowed the third fewest fantasy points per route ran against of any defensive back who faced more than 150 routes this year. He was absolutely incredible for the Bengals. You don't realize it because the team is such a dumpster fire. And, of course, Joe Burrow got hurt and just got worse and worse. But, I look around at teams like the Titans who couldn't stop anyone. They have talent in the backfield, but you need someone who can stop the pass, especially if you're going to have a historically bad pass rush again. William Jackson makes a ton of sense. Guys like Buffalo on the outside, opposite Tre'Davious White, that could really make a difference. The 49ers, who are losing Richard Sherman, Jason Verrett, I think that makes a ton of sense. William Jackson's everyone's talking about Richard Sherman and Shaq Griffin and Patrick Peterson. I think the premier corner on the market this year is William Jackson.
Yeah, a lot of interesting moves here. And also, as I get back to that point where when you win the Super Bowl, everybody over-evaluates themselves as a player hitting the free agent market, saying, I just won a Super Bowl. I'm probably the best at my position because why we won the Super Bowl. Case in point to Levante David, Jeff, looking to get paid big. There is salary cap restraints. And much as they say, boy, I love it here and I want to win again. If another team's going to offer you $3 million more per year, you are out the door fast. Give me some defensive free agents, Jeff, that you're looking at here in 2021.
Yeah, obviously this guy took a while for him to get going, but, he had an unbelievable season. Seemed like he was involved in every play last year. Leonard Williams, USC kid. He got drafted, was a major disappointment coming out of USC, but I'll tell you what, he had a terrific season. Got to the quarterback a little bit. I think he had 14 sacks last year. 11 or 12, something like that. Impressive season, good tackler. Obviously kind of a bull in the middle. Can obviously get out and rush the passer as well. Good tackler. I like him. I have actually, when we get to that trade one, I have an interesting place for him to go. One other one, this is more of a safety. Justin Simmons, Denver.
Yeah, I like him.
I think he's turned into one of the best safeties in the league, really. And if Denver knows what's good for him, they better hold on to him. They've had an issue with just kind of recognizing talent, particularly on the offensive side. But he's a really good player, good tackler, good run stopper, does a lot in that game. Good hitter, just a good safety in the league. Really has kind of become a good player. I think he's a guy that's going to get some more money. We'll see if they franchise him. I've heard there's talk of that. But, this is such an underrated position. These, defensive stuff in general, there's just so much here. Even linebackers, too. There are teams that value them, which we know about, and there are teams that don't. But there is a lot of good. Hassan Reddick, terrific outside linebacker, Temple University made. There's a ton of ways to go. Camus Grugier-Hill, we know him well here. Was a great special teams kid, went down to Miami, had a good season. There's a ton on this list. Real good value on the defensive side of the ball.
And now Stutter in the chat box says BMOC is the man. And yes, we do agree with that. And by the way, we brought up a couple Denver names here. Denver had the semblance for about 16 months as if they can figure out the quarterback, they are going to wreak havoc because that defense is outrageously good. And now they're just blowing up the one strength of their defense, all because Drew Lock stinks and can't keep it together. Can you imagine if they had a competent veteran quarterback on Denver, what would take place in that defense if they stayed healthy and stayed together? But we'll never know because
teams, Donnie, that just seem like they
miss the windows. They miss the window.
It's Denver, Chicago, Philadelphia. They just see the world differently than literally everyone else. And they never get anything right. We're thousands of miles away, at least you and me are, and we could see that the quarterback is the problem in Denver. Why can't they see it?
Oh, trust me. Look, I learned early on this season, I stole a team total when the Denver Broncos went to Atlanta, and Drew Lock actually had a decent fourth quarter in that game. But we used to watch, and I'm going to set this up, Jeff, because this is what we say every week. Kyle, give me one thing you will say during a Denver Broncos game.
It's Jesus Christ, Drew Lock, to every single time. And damn, Vic Fangio's the biggest pussy coach in the entire league. So
yeah.
you're going to hate Drew Lock
right.
and you're going to hate Vic Fangio. Those are the two things you say during every single Broncos game.
Oh my God. Like the NFL is so unique to that too, because like scoring is so hard to do. Like you need like 3 touchdowns, maybe a field goal or 2 to hit like a team total. And you're driving down the field on the 10-yard line. It's 1st and 10, throwing the triple coverage in the end zone. It's like, God damn it, Drew Lock. I mean, we used to have a good time with that. But anyway, let's end the show and have some fun here and talk about some bold trades and some bold free agent acquisitions. What we mean by that is give me maybe a bold trade. Not like, hey, I think Deshaun Watson can go to the Jets. Okay, that's real bold. Thanks a lot. But give me a trade that nobody's thinking of outside of the box. Kyle, I'm going to start with you first.
That's pretty interesting. And I think when I was thinking about this trade one, it was tough for me because I'm trying to decide what I want my 49ers to get. But now that Deshaun Watson's already in talk with the 49ers, it's not that surprising. So I will say, in a way to try to figure out the Ben Roethlisberger situation, the Pittsburgh Steelers end up trading him to the New England Patriots. And then I do believe after that trade, bringing the Patriots back into the fold, in the AFC East, he will join Frank Thomas in those Nugenix commercials, and he will be saying, hey, gentlemen, ladies will like it too. Twitter will blow up. Belichick will have to explain why, Roethlisberger's talking about ladies in any way, shape, or fashion. But I think you see Ben Roethlisberger traded to the New England Patriots. They have a ton of cap room. The Steelers got to get rid of him. No way they want to keep him. So that's the trade that I most likely see happening here. Very interesting when they're in the chat box. I hope that doesn't happen. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff here as it pops up. You stole my team on my trade I'm going to give away in just a few moments with Jeff. Go ahead. Give me a bold trade this offseason.
Well, I think we've always, Donnie, raved, you and I, about the terrific front office that the Baltimore Ravens have.
Yes.
Just a really well-run group down there. I think it's starting – they're starting to quickly realize that they need a number 1 receiver. I know they have had these guys, the Marquise Brown. They're all good players, but they need a big-time player. And I'll tell you what, all of us watched the Buffalo Bills take Josh Allen from being a good quarterback to a fucking great quarterback, and that was Stephon Diggs. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens, who have the 10th most cap space in the NFL, I would highly recommend go get Kenny Golladay. I know the Detroit Lions might not make it let it happen, but they need a number 1 receiver, and he can be that. I think he'd be a terrific player down there. They need a number 1 receiver, and I think he could be it. Maybe they do Godwin. I don't know, one of those guys. They need something. And I think that would make Lamar Jackson just a better player. We know his ability to move around with the ball. If you can get him and Marquise Brown, that team becomes really difficult to deal with, especially with that defense and that coaching staff. They're a good organization. I trust them to do something like that. I think they might try something there.
Yeah, we'll use that for your trade there, as if they franchise tag Golladay and then shipped him out to Baltimore by trade. Now, that's the only way it would work, because if you are a big-time wide receiver, you want money up front. I'm not coming there unless I'm getting $50 million guaranteed and $75 million over the life of the contract, because I know I can't sit in the room at the end of the year with my boys and be like, hey, I caught 113 passes, because in Baltimore, you're catching 45 passes. But at least if your bank account is filled up like you're catching 100 passes, those guys will be able to deal with it. Kyle stole a little bit of thunder from me. Going to the New England Patriots in a bold trade. The Eagles just shipped out Carson Wentz. Next week, the Eagles ship out Jalen Hurts to New England in exchange for a second-round pick, which they can use to trade up from 6 to jump to number 2 and take whoever they want at quarterback. Let's flip it over here. Bold free agent moves. I'll start on this one here. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. Kyle can't stand Jadeveon Clowney. Fool's gold last year. Fool's gold straight up. Getting Clowney over to the Titans. Hey, we finally got a pass rush. Didn't work out as well. They think they can win a Super Bowl with a key piece in a pass rush, which they've already talked about from their GM. Von Miller gets cut by Denver because they're not picking up that team option. He goes down to Tennessee and wreaks havoc in that division. Go ahead, Kyle. Give me a bold free agent move.
I like that, and I think I'm going to stick with the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers and a guy we didn't talk about who is consistently part of the best interior defenses in the entire league. That's Ndamukong Suh. Everywhere he goes, you get exponentially better stopping the run. Your interior pass rush gets better. I can't think of another playoff team that needs that more than the Tennessee Titans. I think you see Ndamukong Suh. If Ndamukong Suh goes to the Tennessee Titans, that front seven becomes exponentially better. All of a sudden, they can now stop the run. They can rush the passer a little bit. You got Sue taking up 2 blockers. I think Ndamukong Suh to the Titans makes a ton of sense and makes them a legit contender in the AFC next year.
Oh, we are beefing up the Titans here. Jeff, go ahead. Give me a bold free agent transaction.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Colts have moved around the secondary a little bit recently. Desir's gone, and I don't think Xavier Rhodes will be back. You got to go out and try to find a corner. I think we didn't talk about him, but he's actually pretty sneaky.
Sin?
Well, yeah, I think he's been kind of a disappointment as well.
Up, yeah.
I would bring in Chidobe Awuzie.
Oh, boy.
From Dallas.
Pretty good player. I think he's got pretty good coverage skills, to be real frank. I liked him coming out of Colorado. I thought he was a guy that I would have liked to have seen on my team. Rock Ya-Sin, Donnie, I think he, like from a penalty standpoint, the guy seemed to get flagged all the time.
Oh, he's real bad. He's real bad.
Yeah. I think they have a slot corner in like a TJ Carey maybe, but I think you need to go out and get a cornerback. They need some things on the back end there. I like their middle linebackers and their kind of front seven, and I think they're getting there defensively. We all know what they were able to do last year in their improvement. This team is getting closer and closer. We obviously know the news today with Wentz. Yeah, I think they will sign T.Y. Hilton as well. I think you got to try to go out and get a Awuzie or somebody like that.
Closer to football season with each day. It seems like it just ended. We'll be here, talking football. Before you know it, bam, week 1 of the NFL season will be underway. Thank you guys for spending your Thursday afternoon talking a little free agent action and trades here with us on sportsbookreview.com. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance, and he is also the big man on campus, Jeff Nadeau. Thanks for tuning in. I usually say good luck on your wagers, so I guess I can say good luck on your future NFL wagers. Thanks.